Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's XAUUSD Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Now, tonight's webinar is live Forex market review, so we'll get straight into that. Before we do, if you can read through the disclaimer, that would be great. And any questions to the chat box or question answer box. As I see a question about the pound. I'll get to the pound shortly. Now, if you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but I've given you a link to attend the webinar. So if you want to join us, then you can chat with me. For everybody else, please read through the disclaimer before we move along. All right, we'll move along. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at DXY Securities. Been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years, mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email's there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. And through the week, you can connect with me at our website. Go to acy.com, Market News tab, or go to our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia. And if you want, you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn. I am putting some content through the week. So just connect with me if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing. As well, we have the XAUUSD Securities Telegram channel. If you want to get access to that, just contact Nathan.bray. And if you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates, just contact Nathan. So I'll put his details in the chat now for you guys, girls. And he'll be able to help you out with anything. Here we go. All right, so let's get into the charts. Before we do, we'll just have a quick look at the news items coming out over the next 24 hours. So these are my time, Queensland time. We have the US unemployment claims coming out at 11:30, and then tomorrow, 5 p.m., the UK retail sales. So those are the ones worth noting. We've had the unemployment rate and employment change come out from the Aussie today. Pretty much came in as expected on the unemployment rate, and employment change figures were better. So that doesn't really bode well. Doesn't take the question of another further interest rate off the table yet, because what theoretically the RBA is looking for is that unemployment will get worse if they, my dog can be quiet. If unemployment gets worse, that will be kind of a flag to say, okay, maybe we're starting to get inflation under control. And we're not really seeing that. So we'll have to wait and see what their thoughts are on that at the next meeting in, what is it, 3 weeks' time. Now, of course, the big information that's gotten released this week has been the CPI data from the US, which has come in figures are much more downgraded than expected. Well, a little bit worse, a bit lower. I shouldn't say worse, better, slightly lower. And of course, we had a massive rush up. Pairs versus the US dollar rushed up. Of course, the US dollar declined. It is clawing back some of that loss as I speak. So we'll have to wait and see how big a continuation we get or not from the reaction on Tuesday. All right, so why don't we just have a quick look, first of all, at the dollar index. Now, it is declining. It is now on the weekly chart here below this potential support level. Doesn't mean to say we'll be below that level by the end of the week, but dropping to the day chart, we are. Any rally at the moment's been met ahead of retesting this level at the moment. So probably have to say at the moment, and it's not on all pairs, but more than 50% of the weight of this dollar index is based on the euro dollar. So it's not a true reflection of what is happening of a currency, of any currency pair versus the US dollar. So we have to bear that in mind. But what I can definitely see is I get my drawing tool to work today. I'll wait and see if it'll work. Now we've had this move down here. And we had a rally, and then this move down here. We're almost at the same, that's probably the same length. So we might have a little bit more down to go in terms of down, rally down before the next rally. We'll have to wait and see. But if we start to close back above this high here, that could mean then we may well come up and fill that imbalance that got formed the other day. So that's worth noting. All right. And the S&P 500 has been moving up. Now it has moved up too from the weekly chart. It's coming up to 79% of this range, and we're pretty much at 79% of the larger range. So we are definitely in an area where we could top out here on the S&P 500, but the day trend at the moment is quite clearly up now, although coming into some high areas here. So if we start to see a reversal up here, then we could be moving all the way back down. So, you know, I'll be waiting to see what happens up here. We do have a rejection yesterday at these highs to the left here. So a reversal could be on the cards at this area. You could drop down to your 4-hour chart and look for a 4-hour trend reversal, which we're not seeing just yet, but that was going to be the first kind of reversal that you're going to see on the time frame, is moving down to the 4-hour chart. So we're at the 79% level. Can we start maybe form a lower top on the 4-hour chart? So if you like trading the S&P 500, maybe we're looking for a first lower top to form on the 4-hour chart to maybe start to confirm that maybe we're stalling and holding at these highs to the left. And at the 79% level, 279% levels, in fact. Okay. So we need a little bit more information about reversal there, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we could be in the next bull market because the market could be well anticipating now that over the next 6 months at some point, maybe the US will decide that they can now start to unwind their interest rate decisions if inflation keeps falling like it's been falling. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, let's get into the currency pairs. Now, the euro dollar. This is my markings from last night. Let's wrap it up. All right, now on my 50-minute chart here, we do have an imbalance over here that may well need to be filled, which is this area here. 4-hour chart is a little bit larger. And there's more imbalance on this candle, but it's all started on that candle there. So to the day chart, we've had a big rush up on Tuesday. Couldn't really follow through Wednesday. So maybe this thing has maybe done its corrective phase. We'll have to wait and see. At the moment, if I go to my monthly chart, because I've got a line here, which I must have accidentally moved it because it was at 108.79. I think I moved it yesterday's webinar. All right, so I've got old monthly resistance over here. And sometime when we've had price action that's covered this area once and twice and 3 times, but it's a reference point from back in time where the market respected as support. And interestingly, this week, it's where we traded up to. All right. Now, if we are going to have a reversal up here, I'd be a lot happy to see price action move below this more recent area, which is at 108.33. Today chart. So what we can see at the moment is we're being pinned at the top by monthly resistance, and we're being pinned on support at 108.33. So we can't go back down to 108.33 instantly because we've been there already today, but that would be the area to start to watch. That's seemingly support at the moment. Tagged it yesterday, it's tagged it today. So the market's operating as that as a level for support to move higher at the moment. All right. Now, what I'm seeing at the moment intraday is, well, of course, we've had a rally back up, but we're looking like we're holding a central pivot point at the moment. So if we start to see maybe a trend line break occur now from the central pivot point, we obviously had a negative day following the large day yesterday. We could, be wanting to move down and feel this large imbalance over here that formed on Tuesday. So I know we've had a large rush up, but seeing these imbalances form from one week to the next, if you know what an imbalance looks like and you've been watching them, then you'll know they often get filled. So if we start to see reversal, trigger to sell up here from the central pivot point today, we could well be over the next couple of trading days coming down to fill this area, coming back down to this level of support at 107.36. So if you get a trigger to sell here, you need to be at break even by 108.33 because that's clearly acting as support at the moment. Now it might break on the next test or could still be support. So if you're much more on the buyer side, this is the area to watch 108.33 for support for a move up if we can come back down for another test. If you're more on the idea of a price reversal to fill this imbalance over here, then you're looking for what is your trigger to sell. What's going to suggest to you, okay, we're holding intraday and what's your trigger? So it could be a trend line break, depending if that comes around there. It could be a swing point break. All right. Euro yen's just holding to a very massive uptrend. It's not having a pullback. Tuesday, I was hoping for a pullback to support down here, or through the week I was, but that's not going to happen now because we're continuing just to have a day up, day up, day up, day up. So we've actually had on the fifth day up at the moment. So we get, I'm not going to buy anything on the fifth day up. So I would have to monitor for some form of pullback. I just need to put in the next major reference level of resistance from the monthly chart. We're probably maybe coming up to test these highs up here. 167.72 is the next major level. So that's a good 300 pips away or so, or more. A good 300 pips or more away from us at the moment. So trend is quite clearly up on all time frames at the moment. It's a question of, though, where's your weekly chart look? It's a question of, I don't want to buy on the fifth day up. I would need to see some form of move. Last level of resistance broken is 162.42, which is about, 170 pips away. Now, might not want to pull back that deep. You could just be monitoring the 4-hour range, waiting for the next retracement to occur. All right, that's what I would be monitoring. If I want to trade this pair, I'd be monitoring at least a 4-hour pullback within the fib range. All right, so that's probably not going to, if that's going to happen today, it's going to happen in the middle of the night for us. So you'd have to review it in the morning. If you can pull back, where does it pull back to and what does it look like in the morning? Because it's not the best idea just to be buying at the top of the move, especially after 5 days up. All right, still, I would most definitely look to this area here for support. So it's at 162.42, but I don't know whether we can get down there. And it's worth noting, this is the range of last week. We've already done that range this week, fraction longer. So we are overextended for the week already. Of course, we can move further up this week than we did last week, but if we're looking from one week's move to the next, we've already done the range of the week. So, getting caught at the top of the move isn't that bright. All right, Euro pound, with the pound dollar being a lot weaker, we are rejecting this. What was the double top I discussed on Tuesday? We are rejecting as I'm talking on the 4-hour candle. So it's clearly a strong resistance area. It's last month's high, it's last week's high as well. So if you're wanting to look for a tight entry up here, and just to show you what it looks like on the day, this is an uptrend, but it is struggling here. And maybe at the moment, with it showing a continued uptrend, you might just want to look for a dip. So there's two scenarios that how you could be trading this pair at the moment. You could be watching for a dip, back, can it pull back maybe to a 79% retracement, find some support. So that's 87.28 at the moment. There's a high here as well at 87.30. So that would be your area of support for pullback if you're wanting to trade this long in line with the day chart trend and the weekly trend. If you think we're struggling way up there at last month's high and we're going to finally top out up there, then you could look for a tight entry up there to get short. You could be doing that on a 15-minute chart. You could be looking for some form of trendline break. Can't draw it in yet, but you could be looking for some form of trendline break as and when you can draw it in. If you get a break, stop above the high, and then you see how it starts to pull back. Okay. I mean, if you really wanted to, if you go to the 1 hour chart, you're seeing a 1 hour chart reversal here. We've already broken the low of the last 1 hour candle, that rejection candle. So if that could come back up very close to the low of that last 1 hour candle, you could sell it there, stop above the high and see if you can get a retracement. But the scenario would be wait to see what the 4 hour candle does on the close, and that's going to close at 8 o'clock my time. So at the end of the webinar, that 4 hour candle is going to close, and then you could reassess how you might want to get into the short side. I mean, if that closes above those highs come 8 o'clock my time, then maybe you don't want to entertain it because it's clearly closing above this area of resistance here. All right, let's get into pound. It's just what I was discussing in the last night's webinar. And, last night's webinar, when I was discussing this kind of range here for those that were with me. Just to see what it did. It did pull back pretty much to the 62 level yesterday before moving down. Did actually give another little retracement here to 62. And the monthly level of resistance now, 124.48 became resistance. Potentially we moved above here to become support, so 124.48. But then it's become resistance yesterday, broke below, became resistance. So that would be a level of resistance to watch today if we got back up there. So that 124.48 level, if you go to your monthly chart, is this area here, where we had about 4 months of highs holding there. So we have traded above that area this week, but of course now we're not above it. So is that the major reference point for the pound at the moment, that the market's starting to go, okay, we don't want to be above there? We'll have to wait and see. Quite clear the day chart is up. Now, Azu, you asked me what support on the pound dollar, what level are you looking at? And Lachlan asked me, how volatile are the US dollar unemployment claims usually? Well, it can be volatile. It all depends what the figure comes out at. We have very poor job figures at the start of the month. So if that comes out with another, like a high figure of unemployment claims showing that unemployment's growing, that could be very volatile. So yeah, it could be volatile. Depends how it prints. Azure, I don't know what level you're watching. Are you watching support? Are you watching support on this top over here? All right, just update my support and resistance here on the daily. So that's the monthly low, 124.48. We're not also able to hold above this high from 2 weeks ago. And support at the moment would be this high over here if we pull back to 123.37. So we could pull back to 123.37. That doesn't change the uptrend that we're seeing on the day chart. So that would be the level of support to watch. Of course, though, to get down there, we'd have to sell down to that level. So at the moment, structure that 4-hour chart still potentially in an uptrend, and there's a large imbalance here that still needs to be filled. Some of it, a little bit of that has now been filled to that point, but price could well be coming back into this area here. All right, even down to 123.08. That's last month's high, so that could be a very strong level of support at 123.37. All right, Azure, that's the area you're watching. So, price has to get there first because the current 4-hour candle is turning around. I think at the moment, the fact that we haven't held above these areas of potential support at 124.28 and 124.48, we could see a scenario today where we come up and want to put in a lower top on the 4-hour chart to move down into this zone over the next couple of trading days. I think that was what could be what occurs. And, there's a central pivot. We're nowhere near the central pivot point today, so we're rather weak. The CPI figures from the UK yesterday came out a lot nicer, be it lower, which means then that the UK has probably got no inkling of raising interest rates, and maybe they're heading more towards at some point being able to reduce their interest rates. So that was negative for the currency. So, I would be watching this zone up here today. Well, of course, we've got the US unemployment claims coming out. So this area of support that we moved below yesterday could be resistance today. That would be the area that I'll be watching. Perfect world would be, this is looking rather weak intraday at the moment. It was weak yesterday. We can't get up to the central pivot point. So if we could revisit the central pivot point, that could be where we top out for the day and then move down. So I'd be looking up here for an opportunity to trade if we could get up there. And I'll be looking to the downside for this imbalance here to get filled from the other day's news event. So back down to approximately the 2300, 2308 level of weekly support. All right. All right, Aussie yen, which has been on a tear since Tuesday. So all the yen pairs, oh, sorry, I haven't gone through the pound yen, so let me talk about the pound yen. This has moved to a fresh high. So we've taken out all these highs to the left. On the monthly chart, the next area of resistance is up here at 188.80 and then 4. All right, so, we've had 4 positive days. This may need a pullback. This would be the area to watch for support, 186.75. Not that far away when we take in relation for the pound yen, 75 pips away, but that's nothing for the pound yen. So, that would be the area that I would watch. We are trading. What was Monday's date? The 13th. So Monday's low's here. So I'm going to use Monday's low at the moment. We'll monitor that range from Monday's low because we may have done the range for the week already. And then, can we pull back? We'll be watching for a pullback of some form. 62 level. Do we just dip below 186.75 and then move back above after hitting the 62 level? Or we could pull back to the 79% level at 185.90 and you've got 185.77 support from the day chart highs. All right, so, some of these pairs are overextended. So I think, a lot of the yen crosses are overextended. You have to wait for a pullback, I think, to try to engage. So 1 or 2 days down would be nice just to You know, we haven't had a day down yet, so at least a day down would take you down into the 62 or the 7% area potentially. Can you find support there for a turnaround? That's what I'll be watching. I'll just drop into the 50-minute charts and just excuse me one moment. All right, so about that. Now, just want to see what the pound yen looked like intraday. It's a little bit choppy. The area that I was discussing, the 62% level down here, you have that imbalance here from the other day. So if we actually came down to fill that imbalance, you're getting very close to the 62% level. So like I've commented on some of the other pairs, we may well need to pull back to fill the imbalance. All right. All right, so on to the Aussie yen. Just checking my monthly levels from over here. My weekly levels. Not sure what that level is, so I'm just going to take that one off. So at the moment, we are at very high levels. We're testing this major monthly top, 98.43. So we're only 14 pips away. It's not a great area to buy into because it's very historical. You never want to be buying at the highest price. That's the highest price we traded at in 2 years. You don't want to be buying at the highest price. All right, and we are holding above this weekly top to the left and to the day chart. So today we've tried to pull back to this top, couldn't quite get there. So quite clear the buyers are sitting, wanting to buy just on top of the top. All right, whether or not price will come down, could come down to this area as well, 97.57.8. Now, whether or not price is going to be very favorable and come down and actually hit this area, it all depends. We've been down close to it today, so maybe we can't get down to it. But now we're testing the monthly high at the top. You don't want to be buying into the high. You want to be buying down here on support. If this is going to move further up over the coming weeks, you want to try to buy a dip for a break of the monthly high. Now, of course, I don't know where this will finish by the end of the day, but we are, of course, trying to move above. We closed above the high yesterday, but if today we actually close, but let's say we close right now, we close below the high today, that's actually weak. That's a sell signal from the seller's perspective that we're controlling this high and we want to move it down in the short term or even the long term. So the levels to watch from the sellers and the buyer's perspective are seller's perspective is up here and the buyer's perspective is just here at this weekly high over here at 97.66 and daily high at 97.57. All right. Trend is still up on the 4 hours, so it's just too late to buy, really. You're too close to the high. Now, I do see a different perspective here on the intraday chart because we've had quite an aggressive sell-off down through here. And we could actually just put that over onto the highest point. Now, from a seller's perspective, 79% level is very close to the monthly level. And if this was to get up to that area there, you would potentially be filling any imbalance that may be in this area here. All right, maybe still a little bit of imbalance there. So, if you drop it down to a 5-minute chart, you're probably going to see an imbalance in there. So there may just be a little area that needs to be filled in that area, and that would get you up to the 79% level. Now we're at the 62% level at the moment. If you favor the 62 level rather than 79% level, well, maybe you need to think about selling here at 62 level stop above the high for this to come down and trade down to test the support area. And can we break the support area? All right. If I was looking at support and resistance right now on this pair, the one that has the most time to it is the monthly high. So that's the one that's got the most strength. All right. So if you're looking to, should I favor the upside or the downside, the strongest level is the monthly high. All right. This weekly high here, it got formed in May, so it's what? Maybe it's 6 months old just, whereas this high got formed August last year. So, it's at least twice as old. All right. So there's actually more strength to that high and then that weekly high there. All right. Morris, you're asking me, do I think it's a good time to sell the pound near the central pivot if we see a trend line break and MACD cross? Personally, I'd be a lot happier favoring the upside on the pound yen because on the day charts in an uptrend. So whilst we may decline down because we've had 4 or 5 days up, I'd much prefer to stack my trade in the direction of the higher time frame trend, which is up, rather than try to trade to the short side personally. But if we just look back to pound yen, it has to come up to the central pivot point first. Let's go to my other charts, which I've got MACD on because you're talking to me about MACD. Well, I mean, if you're using the trendline break MACD cross, MACD's up at the moment, so you're going to have to wait for a couple of things to form. I think this has got more chance of moving up to the upside, really, because the pairs to the yen are moving up. So I think you're really maybe bucking the trend there, but you could look for that setup. But the day chart trend, MACD's up, high and low trend is up. You're really bucking the trend. Okay. All right, so back to Aussie yen. So there is the opportunity to maybe trade down from the monthly high, and there's maybe the opportunity to buy up from weekly support on that pair. There is the possibility longer term, though, that we could hold at the monthly high here. This is the weekly chart view, and start to reverse down the range. All right. There could be the viewpoint that if the US dollar is going to get weaker, that would translate into a weaker dollar yen, which is yen strength. And that could then, precipitate into other yen pairs, getting stronger on the yen side. So there is the possibility that we could fail the high over the coming weeks to see a movement back down. All right. All right, so we'll just have to wait and see what's happening up there. Aussie dollar. All right. So Tuesday, I said watch the top of the range. We've already broken the candlestick of yesterday. If you wanted to use that as an entry to confirm that maybe the top of the range is holding, or you could have just traded at the top of the range. Trading at the top of the range, so my range trade technique is selling at the top of the range, stop at the 127 level. Usually I have the fib tool the opposite way around, so it's the 127R. So let's just turn this around because we're at the top of the range. So that's the range I was discussing the other day. But now we're at the top of the range. So because I was thinking maybe we were getting down to the bottom of the range, but now we're back up to the top. So you could have shorted at the top, stop at the 127R, and then you're targeting the bottom of the range potentially if we can get down there. All right, so target would be down here. Now, if you want to get a tighter entry, then 4-hour chart, we've broken this little area of support here. So potentially we could come up for a retest now. $79 level is pretty much at the 65.22 level. 79% level at 65.24, resistance at 65.22. All right. As well, at the moment, we're tagging the 6,500 level. So we might not come up here for a final test. We may have a shorter test at 65. But I would certainly, that would be my area to watch up there. The 65.24, 65.22 area up there. The resistance level and the 79% fib level. So yesterday, there was 3-4-hour candles up there, giving you the opportunity to make a decision as to whether you want to get short up there yesterday. Now, of course, when it was trading up here at 65.41, I was watching it going, are we breaking above here? But, by the end of the day, no, we weren't. All right, so it's the 50-minute chart. At the moment, we maybe are holding at the figure level there. Well, the current candle is selling off. So you need to make a decision. Do you want to try and short it as close as you can to 65? Or do you want to wait for some of these high levels to see whether the high levels can be touched today? All right. The job claim figures coming out a little bit later in the evening could just get this up to the higher levels if you wanted to be patient. I'd be patient and wait for the higher levels myself. I'm using a fib range and we're only testing the 50% level here. To me, that's not a strong level, the 50% level. 62, that overlaps with 65.11. Weekly resistance, or the 79% level a little bit higher up. Those are the better levels to trade. And you've got the central pivot point here too. So that's a very good level, around about the 65.10.11 level there. All right, New Zealand yen. All right, so bursted out the range. So the range where we're holding at is really where we want to look for support. I'll probably look at this area here, this area of consolidation. Then we've broken above, but I mean, it can hold at 90.99, the top we've broken above. So let's review the monthly chart. Next major level is there at 92.40. So make sure you're not trading into that. All right, now the weekly trend, whilst it's up, it's probably getting up towards the 127 extension of the move up, pull back, next move up. So it's getting a little bit to the end of the fib range there at the moment. So, I mean, I'd be cautious up here about getting long. If you wanted to be long, you should have been long by now, because that's from the weekly fib ranges. This is where people have taken their profits. Do you want to be getting in where people are taking their profits? All right, so, if you want to get long, I think you need to look for a pullback to support. This high here was very strong resistance at 89.69, where we're false breaking through here. And this little area of tops in there. That would be the area to watch for a pullback if you wanted to get long at the moment. I'm not seeing a reason to get short. I'm just saying where price is, I don't think it's an area where you want to look to get long because of its overrun nature. But if you wanted to start to look for an opportunity to be a buyer, you need to wait for a pullback, and this area here would be the area that I would watch to see what happens if you pull back into this area, okay? So that weekly high over there is at 89.69. That day top there is at 89.91. So that area there. New Zealand dollar. very similar to what we were seeing on the Aussie dollar. I wasn't expecting it to come so far up, but because of the news event of Tuesday, well, right now we're at the 79% level. So you could be trading at the 79% level, stop above the highest point, which might just be here. In fact, it may be still the other high. 65.39. All right, so that is still the highest point. All right, so when you're looking at the weekly chart and you've got clear, let me get that fib off. This is how you come up with the major levels. The levels where the market is holding at, these are weekly lows down here. These are weekly highs up here. It's the same on the Aussie dollar. We're holding at the weekly, two weekly highs are very close together. All right, so the weekly chart here, well, that's actually a daily high there, but there's a weekly high here, and there's an old weekly level of support there. So it's like old support, new resistance. So you've got double support and resistance in there. You've got a daily high in here, which is that one there. Another daily resistance level there. So you've got a very strong area of resistance there, weekly level. It's already told you twice that it doesn't want to go above. So when it comes up the third time, and it can be difficult because we've had a huge rush up the day before, we continue up into the next day and you're going, US dollar is getting weaker because inflation is dropping and we must be moving above this top, but no, it's a clear reference of resistance there. Now we may move through over the next few days. We'll have to wait and see. Or, we could be coming up for a retest. So at the moment today, we're getting a bit of support from over here, which is an old level of monthly support. It became resistance. So just through there is offering some intraday support today. And I would say much like the Aussie, I will be watching for a retest and failure up here because it's proved to you that it doesn't want to go through. So can it come up to 79% level, even retest 64.T8? That's what I'll be watching for. All right, looking for a 79% pattern there. And that was last month's high. I've taken you through the webinar on the importance of last month's high and last month's low. That's last month's high. That was the highest point that any trader wanted to buy the New Zealand dollar. So halfway through the month now, we're testing that level. We couldn't quite get to the highest point of last month. We may not trade above that level, and we could trade all the way back down to the low of last month through the next half of this month. All right. So up here is definitely where to look for failure. Or maybe, there's an imbalance in here that needs to be filled. All right. Even if you just, trade back to support where we found support early in the week. If you wanted to get long, really, we need a break of this area. Break of that area convincingly, and that becomes support then for the market to form a base to move higher. All right, so at the moment, I'll still be watching up here for further failure. Dollar Canadian, it came up for that retest up there and it's fallen down, but now it's getting support from where it got support before. So maybe it's just going to consolidate in this area through here. So at the moment, because we've actually traded down there yesterday and held, there's maybe a little inverse head and shoulder pattern forming down here on 13600 support. Moving to the 4-hour chart, you could be looking for a little retracement here down to the 50-minute chart. You could be seeing if we get another test of support to hold. You got your support 136.60 and your 79% fib level at 136.66. Do we come down into this area? after yesterday's little rejection down at support, do we come down here to find further support today to move back up, move back up the range? Is that imbalance over here that may need to be filled? So if we start to move, can you see a setup that maybe shows that we want to get more support down here to continue up? All right. Doesn't mean price may not want to get down here today, but that's what I would look for. So that would be the inverse of what I'm looking for potentially there on the Aussie dollar or the New Zealand dollar. Aussie dollar looking to see if this can come up into this area, the opposite on the dollar Canadian. All right, Aussie at the moment doesn't like it above 65. So today, tomorrow, whether or not we can get into these higher levels of resistance on the Aussie, I don't know, but later today or later tomorrow, you may see another retest of 65. If we fail here at the moment, come down, tomorrow we may come back up for another test of 65 tomorrow. That would be an area to watch to get short. Dollar franc, which been moving down. So potentially this is changing that weekly trend back to down. So this is actually forming itself into potentially a lower top falling on the monthly, which is really then a 79% monthly retracement failure. Are we trading down long term with the US dollar getting weaker? The weekly trend that had put a higher bottom in, higher top, higher bottom, is now lower top, lower bottom. It still needs to negotiate this level of support through here, 89.01. So, 89.01, this area here, whilst we have a lower top, potentially a lower bottom, if we have a day chart reversal back above 89.01, this area here, this could just be a false drop move and we trade all the way back up the range. So it really needs to commit below 89.01. If we close back above that level today, you could be maybe then starting to assess the charts and look for an opportunity to trade up. All right. Rather choppy, price action has been rather choppy here. It's moved to an uptrend on the weekly, moved to a downtrend on the weekly. It could false break and move back up. It really needs to start to hold below 89.01 for a few days. And then you have a little bit more of a convincing idea that maybe we are now moving to lower levels. All right, dollar yen. So we've been discussing, let me get rid of that fib. All right, so I'm just reading your question on the Aussie. So you're saying, if you were looking to short it, where would you consider your ideal point to enter the trade? Would it be yesterday or today? If weight comes up for retest above those levels. Well, I mean, you could have shorted it yesterday at 85.22. Probably the best time was here yesterday. I went to bed in here, so I couldn't trade this up here. But if you were up, see how it comes down? That would have been the best area up there at that 79% level here. The best level to short it today would be, if you want to be greedy, it would be up here at the another hit of 65.22, assuming that price can get there. And this is a very good level. Well, the 62 level is very good at 65.11 day resistance. You've got central pivot point fractionally above at 65.12, 62% overlap there as well. So that is a very good level. That would be the greedy level up there at 65.22. I think the kind of, with all things going on there at the 62 level, that would be the best level to pick. I think that would be the high probability level that could get traded at today would be at 65.11. Greedy level will be up there at 65.22. And yes, yesterday was the best time to get short because price may not come up to any one of those two levels I'm discussing today. So yeah, yesterday up here was the better time. All right. All right, where was I? Dollar yen. So the dollar yen has not yet traded at the high of last year. Been very close. I mean, we could get a major double top up here, but the weekly trend is up at the moment. It's looking like it's only pulled back to weekly support. 150.15.1. All right. And the other day I was talking about, looking to buy a dip on this pair because even though the interest rate differential still favors the dollar yen moving higher, even though maybe the US are going to start to lower their interest rates. Interest rates favor the dollar yen moving up in an uptrend. Unless the market's anticipating that interest rates are going to go to a much lower level, then we may need a corrective phase. But interest rates, the carry is still there for this pair to hold support on dips. So we pull back to the 62% level. I highlight that area on Tuesday. So whilst we've had, an aggressive drop, look where we got support. So on this pair at the moment, I'm not really, I don't want to buy it because it's just too close to that monthly area. I could entertain up here looking for a retest, or a test of 151.94, and can it fail up there? I could look at that. So I could look up here. If we got up there, I could look up there. I could look back down here once more. Get the right tool. I could look at support to be retested once more, the 150.15 down to 150. This area here. That's your support. And you could also look, potentially we could have moved down here. We're rolling back up to put in a lower top. So you could be, all right, 15-minute chart. Let me just squash it in. We haven't yet filled the whole imbalance. It's been trying to fill the imbalance though. So let me get rid of these colors. Let me get rid of that fib. To fill the imbalance, we'd have to get above the 79% level. So I think the area that I would watch is last month's high up here. There's all these 15-minute tops up here. That's where it got capped this week. So that area up there would be where I would start to watch for weakness. All right. We've already had some form of intervention here. Then that was the news. There is still a little bit of an imbalance up here. All right. That hasn't yet been filled. So we could actually get all the way back into that area on the dollar yen, and then there could be a good shorting opportunity up there. And when you're looking at 151.43. So that's just short of the 79% level that I've drawn in, because that's at 151.50. All right. So it does, interest rates still favor this coming back up. It'd be nice to see, you don't have to be the seller at such high levels. It'd be nice to see this week is, do we finish with a negative reversal week this week? Or do we finish with a positive week? Because if we get a negative reversal week this week, that could be the signal that we're going to have a number of weeks down. And then, you're looking for an opportunity to get short, maybe lower down somewhere on a setup. All right. At the moment, we're still contemplating the idea, can we come up to back up to the higher levels and feel some of these imbalances that have been formed over the last couple of trading days. All right. I mean, you could be trading at 150, 150, the 79% level, and simply put your stop above here. So you could maybe, you could put your, if you want to have a 100 pip stop, so at 150, 150, stop at 152.50. That gets you stop above the high of the year before. You need to see a break of the high of the year before by a good 50 pips or 57 pips probably to stop you out. All right. And, if it got that much above, you'd have to say, okay, I'm wrong. All right. And you move to the next trade. So when we did top out let's just go back to the day chart. When we did top out over here, we dropped 2,000 pips or more. So there is the potential that we could have, we could move all the way back down the range. That's often what can happen from a historical high point. We hold and then we trade all the way back down. All right. So that is most definitely a possibility, but at the moment, we're not seeing too much. We're still higher top, higher bottom on the day chart. So, we could still be bucking the trend here. But we all know that we're at very high levels, and we all know probably that the Bank of Japan could well come in and intervene at these very high levels up there, back up at retesting, that 150, 194 level. So it is a good level to watch up there, right? All right, let's just finish on gold. And this is how I drew it out on my day chart. Day chart trend is down. I'm looking at these lower levels of imbalances and gaps that maybe need to be filled on this bigger up move up there. Still have the downtrend showing there on the day charts. And what I'm showing here is, can we move up to the 62.79% area? Got a little bit short of the 62 yesterday. I mean, maybe we've already failed there, but I will be, looking into that area. I would watch that area up there. Still the same area at the moment. Do we come up to this area? 1976 up to 1988. Resistance at 1987. Will price come into that area, hold, fail, put in a lower top then on the day chart, and it can continue its move down to fill these areas. The gap and the imbalance that got formed when the Israeli war started, the gap and imbalance formed on the way up. So, common theme on a number of instruments or pairs at the moment are chooses imbalance. Often an imbalance gets filled. All right. Doesn't mean to say then that we're going to get a complete trend change that we've been seeing forming this week. The uptrend that was been forming this week on pairs to the US dollar could continue all month. But, if we go back to, for example, the pound dollar, we have this imbalance here. And on the euro dollar, we have this imbalance over here. These are 50-minute charts. These areas may need to be filled before we then see another leg up. All right, so now we are holding at the central pivot point over there on the euro dollar. And we're getting a little bit of a trend line break here at the moment. So, you might want to make a decision. Do you want to sell, put stop above the high, the intraday high that's formed here? Caution maybe in that trade when the news comes out at 11:30 tonight. What's the Aussie dollar doing? All right, Aussie's just probably not going to be too far away from 65 when the US news comes out later in the day. All right, so personally for me, I'd be waiting just for that US news to pass, and then I would just look to see where price sits after that, and then can I see something I want to trade at the levels that I've been discussing. My thoughts on the S&P 500, I think we're at a double 79% area. All right, on the day chart, we're at all these daily highs. We have a rejection yesterday. So I said earlier in the webinar, so if our chart started to turn down, that could be then your trigger to look for a reversal. All right. Might only get a short-term reversal down, down to this area here where the imbalance started. but we could start to see a reversal up here to trade at least down to fill the imbalance. But the 4-hour chart's still up at the moment. So if it's starting to turn down, then there may be an opportunity there to get short. All right, that's my thoughts on the S&P 500. All right, everybody, I'm going to wind things up there. Thanks very much for your attendance this week with the webinars. Next Tuesday is my next webinar, 8 p.m. Sydney time for more analysis. So if you have the time, I look forward to seeing you then. Just head over to the webinar page and you can catch up with what is coming out next week. Thanks, love. I've got some more webinars next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'm having a week off. So I won't be here for a week. All right, so next Tuesday, Forex Trading Live Market Analysis from me. For the 4-hour trade entry is my Wednesday education webinar, and then more analysis from me on Thursday. And then I'm having a week off. And then I think I'm back on for another 3 weeks and then another week off at Christmas, okay? Christmas is quickly coming around the corner, isn't it? All right, everybody, thanks very much. Thanks for all the questions coming in. Azur, you just asked me when I'm going on break. In a week's time, just for a week, and then I'll be back. All right, thanks, everybody.